that actually kind of brings me to my next point, which is the digging into the how of how you do this. Like, let's say you're somebody who's really struggling with trying to find their identity, maybe in their literary work. What are some concrete steps you'd go about? One of them you just started right now, which is kind of writing the novel all the way through. I mean, would you recommend that for a new author, or is just kind of writing it out all the way through to kind of figure out exactly how to distill that down? And and what are some other steps that you would say, some concrete steps people could take to find their identity?
I'm always in favor of just sitting down and writing. Absolutely. That doesn't always work for every single person. For some of my clients, we have to do it very much in piecemeal, and I have to guide them with questions and prompts. And once I give them a prompt, they'll go and they'll extrapolate so detailed, and they'll write 5 chapters from one little sentence prompt. So that's why I say it's very individualized. And while I do know some gurus, some coaches, colleagues of mine have a very strict regimen. They say, here, we're going to do this, then we're going to do this, then we're going to do this. Mm-hmm. I can't play that way, because that's not how life works. As a sociologist of 20 years, I recognize that the nuances of life just constantly are shifting, and an individual is constantly shifting. And most people, the reality is, they don't know who they are, and they don't know who they are enough to even write what they think they're trying to write. So I always look at each client as its own process. While I use a lot of the same methods, I almost always start with a questionnaire that has about 10 questions that answer some things about a person that may seemingly have nothing to do with the writing process, but they are things for me to get to know the person, and how someone answers them shapes how I'm going to work with them. From there, it really depends on what the person needs. So I have this one client who needs prompts every week. Then I've worked with other people that just want to sit and write, and they just want me to review it and give them feedback. My current client, she is writing her book, and she's a very, very busy doctor. And we came up with a methodology where she records what she wants to say. I have a transcriptionist type it all up, and then it comes to me and it's merged together. And then I go through and do my edits, developmental edits. And by next week, I have to get it to her with my comments in red that says, we need more information here. We need research here. And I'm going to, for her, number them so she can record for number 1, for number 2, for number 3. So I know exactly where to plug in what she records into each spot. That way she doesn't have to go back and forth, and we don't have to guess where it is because page numbers got messed up or whatever.
I see. And how could you give us some insight into these prompts? Like, what kind of questions are you asking?
Some of them are ridiculous. Some are, if you were a tree, what kind of tree would you be and why?
Oh, wow. Okay.
I love trees, and I always love to see people's reaction to that question. I've used that one for years. Actually, it was an interview question in my first job interview, and I went to the interviewer. I went, why does it matter what kind of tree I am? I'm here to do this job. It has nothing to do with trees. I guess the paper is made from trees. So I didn't have any clue that they were looking to try to get my creativity. But
I was curious too. So it's about the creativity.
Right. It doesn't really matter what you say, though. There are some psychological experts that say if you answer with a weeping willow, you are this kind of person. If you answer with an oak, you're I don't look at it that way. I look at it as how creative is the person and how can they turn it around to make it about something different. Sometimes sometimes the prompts are very specific to their book. So, for instance, this particular author that is writing the book that I'm having the transcriptionist type, she's writing a book about the COVID situation. As a medical doctor, it's her perception of what it is. So asking her about trees probably wouldn't be a logical thing, but I might ask her a question to define what American culture is, or define what Syrian culture is, since she is an immigrant from Syria living in America she needs questions that are going to be different than, say, you as someone who's writing a science fiction novel that doesn't yet know what his sub-target within the science fiction world is. So your
Gotcha.
target might be I might ask you to, okay, give me a detailed description of one of your characters. That's your prompt this week.
Let's say you were working with me to develop my science fiction novel. You would
Mhm.
every week give me a prompt like, okay, like the one you just said, or, maybe I'm just going to throw a prompt out there. You tell me if I'm way off base here, but, what kind of setting are you? I don't know. What kind of spaceship are you? I don't know. And you would give me something like that every week?
Yes. So I might say, describe in excruciatingly painful detail the spacecraft that you're using.
Interesting.
It doesn't mean every detail you put in this will be in the book. I'm wanting you to use your detailing skills to detail even the most mundane crack in the corner that no one ever sees. Because that actually might be in the story. That might be the start of the story, that piece of that description of the ship. And then you have the description of the ship that you can take pieces of and put wherever you want in the book. And it makes the book come alive in a different way. It may be a scene. It may be that you have a scene between two characters. So, like, for instance, I don't know, are you familiar with the
Star Trek?
well, yeah, I was thinking Star Trek, but I'm like, is there any episodes that I would think about? So when Captain Picard was captured by the Borg and he had to go be a Borg, he had to remember who he was as Captain Picard while still being absorbed into the collective that was the Borg. And then he was saved and had to come out of it and not give up that aspect of being a Borg. So I might say to you, okay, you're writing a science fiction novel. Write about your thoughts of what you think Captain Picard was thinking as he was coming out of being a Borg.